6:01. I'm going to go ahead and just call the meeting to order. The regular scheduled board meeting for Monday, May 11th, 2020. Welcome to our second live stream Zoom meeting. It's just a reminder that we did suspend the public comment portion, but the meeting will be streamed out to the public, and patrons can solicit feedback or questions to the board members. Apologize for this difficult time here. With that, I guess we should do a roll call to make sure who all's here. I think we can tell, but Chris?
Here.
All right. Drew?
Here.
All right, made it. Justin?
Here.
Kaya?
Here.
All right, Karen?
Here.
All right, and Stephanie?
Here.
All right, I got what you need there, Audra. With that, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Move that we approve the
Make a
agenda.
motion to approve the.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
All right, well, I saw a lot of people, but I saw Chris make a motion to approve the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All in favor? Chris?
Yes.
Oh, we have to have a voice vote. Drew?
Yes.
Justin?
Yes.
Kaya?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
And Stephanie?
Yes.
All right, I'll vote yes. Been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda. Move on to we have several presentations tonight. Yes, Lori, looks like you're on the list first. I think everyone should have Lori's information was in the packet. So Lori, you want to take over? I'm going to go on mute here.
Sure. You guys hear me okay? Can you hear me?
It's pretty quiet, Lori. I don't know if you should ask.
Yes. If I speak up, is that better? Or maybe Forrest can
That's
hear me.
better. I don't know if there's
I can
volume.
hear you. Okay. Okay. So
For it.
I think what I'm going over is just what? Are we good?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I thought you said something. Capital outlay. So I think you all probably have the handout where I just covered our beginning cash balance for 1920 school year, and then our projected revenue and our projected expenses. So we started out the 1920 year with just under 1.7 million. 1,691,000. With our projected revenue and our projected expenses through the end of the year, I'm projecting we're going to end it with 1,478,000. So that's a cash spent of just about 213,000 that we're spending down. That's not a normal year, but we've sort of discussed some of the big projects we've done and the equipment that we've purchased. Obviously, we don't want that to be a normal year, but that still then will leave us with 1,478,000 to start out the 2021 school year. I also included just again kind of our indebtedness, showing what our payments are. You'll see our big ones, of course, are those train payments to Bank of America leasing. When those come off January of 2022, that's going to be a really good day. I also still included what we paid off in 1920, just kind of to see, and then you'll see our turf payment that's coming on for the 2021 school year. And our payment should be around 86,000, taking into account the one-time donations and the annual turf donations. Past that, I've got projections done through the end of the year for each of our funds, and everything looks to be on target. I don't see any red flags. We do have to republish the Parent Education Program Fund, and that's only because when we built the budget, we got budget authority for $25,650. And then after the budget was published, we found out that our payment was actually going to be $26,000. So I just have to republish it. And I plan to get that put in the newspaper so that we can get approval next board meeting to do that. So our payment always in the past was $25,000. This year it's $26,000. The only other thing I would touch on is still really unknown to me is what our revenue is going to look like next year, because of course, the taxes that we're not collecting, and also the state aid. I don't know if Lauren knows more. I don't think we know anything yet, but it's something I would like to keep an eye on. So I don't have really anything specific to report there, but that's really all I was going to go over. Does anybody have any questions about any of that?
Laura, the only thing I would
Hey,
add,
Lori.
the only thing I would add is Dale. Go ahead, Jim.
Oh, sorry. I think I was just going to ask on the capital outlay for this past year and the $220,000 spend down. Is that just include the normal payments on the train, or we've been making some extras here and there certain times?
We did not make an extra payment this year. We did get an extra payment made. What? Yeah, last year we make an extra payment, which was nice. This year we did not do an extra payment. No, that's just our normal 2 payments.
Lauren, you said you had some input, I think, from Lauren.
Yes, what I was going to add was, yep. Just to add on what Lori was saying about budget for next year, state aid. At this point, Dale Dennis has informed us that we should plan on budgeting as normal. So there will be an increase in state aid based on legislative action from a year ago. But that's where we're at this point. Obviously that could change, but as we build the budget this summer, we're planning on the state aid increase.
Lori, you got something to add?
No, I was just going to say, so yeah, state aid, that'd be excellent if that continues, but I have a feeling tax revenues are going to be less. Again, I mean, I don't have any good information to share, but.
Well, it would be based on valuation. I mean, yeah, the collections may be down. Hopefully the valuation is still up because of the new construction, different things. Sorry, I think several of us have low bandwidth or something. Sorry. Are there any other questions on the capital outlay information from the board? Anyone? I'm giving a little lead extra time here because it seems like it's slow, but well, if there's no other questions for Lori, I think Barb is next on the list. for an update on the student nutrition. Thank you, Lori.
Well, hello, everyone. You have a sheet with you included in your packet, basically sharing with you the beginning of March 16th when we opened up our grab and go quote summer food program. It's been going gangbusters. KC Star Online came out and did a news article on us. I included that link in there if you want to watch it. We were open for 2 weeks, and then we had a 2-week closure, and we basically regrouped, and I met with all of my staff, talked to them about their concerns of opening up again, resubmitted plans of opening and what we were going to do differently. Earlier we did, we served every day at the elementary, and we went to, the new plan was to only go 2 days a week, but giving the same amount of meals. So they receive 5 meals Monday through Friday at TES, and then at TMS, when we moved it, they receive 2 meals on Monday and 3 meals on Wednesday. A little bit different kind of food, more ready to eat food. It could be ready to eat cold. You can go home and warm it up. Like today, last Wednesday, we had Crispito. Today we had deli sandwich, Uncrustables. Wednesday we'll have chicken nuggets, pizza. So we're trying to utilize as much food in our inventory as possible. But we did reopen, and April 13th is when we started to reopen. And understandably or expectedly, I guess you could say, the meals are down from the elementary, but we are still providing the numbers that I listed on your sheet. And we will continue to keep providing for the families, and we hope that the weather gets a little better. We've had some struggles serving grab and goes outside with thunderstorms and rain and cold weather. So hopefully that will change. I hear this week it's nothing but rain, but we'll get through it. We did have to close down one day due to the storm, and then we just served the same meals the next day. I spoke with my staff. I work with my staff, and all of them have shared they feel the work environment is safe. And as you see, we enter the building. They enter the building, and we record temperatures, and they need to wear a mask, and we have gloves, of course, and hair coverings. All door handles, carts, equipment tables are sanitized before, after, and during any kind of service. The parents come up. We have a 2-stop procedure, and they tell the first volunteer that how many meals they need. They drive down, and they can pop open their trunk, or they can actually get out and grab the meals in sacks on the table themselves. And we are not touching them other than putting them out on the table. Currently, staff is only working about 1 day a week. So we've dropped the contact of the staff having to be there all the time. And of course, schedules are obviously, things can change, and they're doing a really, really great job. And I would really like to thank, first of all, Heather D. Moranville for coming in the first couple days, working with us on the digital thermometer that she provided to borrow, and her help. Someone called her the other day, and she came out and helped us serve. That was really cool. Also, the wonderful volunteers that have signed up to help us. They've told me over and over again how nice it is and how rewarding it is to hand the meals to the kids, and it really is. So with that, if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer any.
Well, first, Barb, I think I can't necessarily speak for everyone, but I think we'd all thank you and your staff tremendously for your efforts in pulling this together, and I'm happy to see the positive PR you got for the school and the district, because I think it went beyond the Kansas City paper. I think it hit some nationwide information sources as well. So appreciate it. And I guess one question I might have is, do you think you're going to be able to do the summer program you've done in the past, or is that all to be determined yet? I know that's maybe it's
This setup will continue until June 30th as the waiver has been given. And then after June 30th, we go till July 17th, but we anticipate the waiver to be extended. At least that's the thought right now. So we will
Great.
continue to hand out these meals all summer long.
Are there any other questions for?
Real
Drew,
quick,
did you have a
have we looked
question?
at, yeah, is there been any investigation on, some covering or something like that, given that we may be facing, inclement weather quite a bit between now and middle of July? I am looking, Lauren and I spoke a little bit. We did have a tent over the staffs and the food, but we set it up too early and the storm came by, and we secured it with concrete and it bent all of the poles. So we're going to have to find something to cover. One of our contingency plans is to move the line over in front of TMS instead of the side curb, because the distance is very, very short. And therefore the parents could just be right there at the front, but that is not in a solid, we haven't solidly decided that, but that was one of the options we thought about the other day in this huge storm that we had. But unfortunately, students are still coming to get packets, and we didn't want to confuse the thing. But I think mostly if there's a storm coming, I think our best bet is to cancel and reserve the next day right now. But we are looking into something overhead, especially for heat coming up too.
Any other questions for Barb? Well, hearing none, again, thanks a lot for all you're doing and what your staff are doing. I think it's a great thing for the district.
Can I say one more thing? A shout out
Yeah.
to Gambinos on National Superhero Lunch Hero Day. We put out a little notice on our Facebook page, and Gambinos through Tanya's contacted me, and they gave every single person on that list a coupon for a free pizza. So those are being handed out right now, and they were very appreciative. So thank you, Gambinos, for that. That was very nice. They really enjoyed hearing that and thought that was very sweet. So great community and great help there.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Barb.
Thank you.
With that, Mr. Farrar, I think it's your next on deck.
All right. Can you guys all hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. First of all, I'm really proud of a group of about 10 people that were willing to come together and talk about branding for our district, across the district. We knew when we were having conversations about design and development that we needed to brand our new high school. And before we could proceed with that, we needed to create a baseline. So we put a group together. And did everybody get one of these branding pamphlets by chance? Or did anybody not get it? Okay. There you go. Good. You can see the purpose,
Yeah, mine, I don't know.
purpose of our committee. Okay. Okay. You can see the purpose of our committee. We wanted to talk about 3 big ideas or big things, goals that we wanted the committee to accomplish. The first one was font. We know that we're going to put a lot of signage up in the high school, and we want it to be speaking a common language. We want it to match the font that we have all over our district, moving forward anyway. We wanted, number 2, to identify color schemes and the guidelines for those color schemes. And that would include uniforms and the colors that we use on our logos. Number 3 was the logos. So as you can see, and we'll go through this pamphlet real quick. Hopefully this won't take too long, but you'll see some of the ideas that the committee would like to recommend to the board. And I think we'll just go ahead and start with fonts. And I did bring an expert witness tonight. Susan Geiger is here. Yes, sure, I've noticed. And Susan's going to talk a little bit and explain the purpose of our fonts and what they all stand for.
We just wanted to unify the communications coming from the district so that when the average person sees something from any of the administration from our district, it always looks the same. That gives the district credibility and a professional look to it. I presented about 5 different fonts to the committee. They're all Google fonts, so they're free. You can download them on every computer, free for us to use. And the committee kind of went through and picked what they liked the best, and that's what we have here. And just looking at them, the primary font is Roboto Condensed. That's what you see in the headers on this PDF. And the thinking is that that would be mainly what's used. That would be your headline fonts. It'd be recognizable, maybe not consciously recognizable, but subconsciously. The more we use the same font every time, everything just becomes more recognizable just at a glance. Underneath that is Roboto Slab, and it's in the same font family, but it has the little slab serifs on the edge, so it's a little bit more of a display font, kind of matches our Power T logo and what we have on the turf. And if you wanted something a little different, you could use that. So those 2 are the main fonts, and then the one underneath that is a serif font that is meant to be used if you're doing something with a lot of copy, like a guidebook or a letter on official letterhead where you've got 200 or more words, several paragraphs, and you want to use more of a typical body copy font, then that would be the one. That's kind of what we are proposing moving forward.
Right. And if the board agrees with this and they vote to adopt this, this is something that we'd sit down with all administrative teams and we would talk about how to use this properly. So the message would be sent across the board. You can see on the next page, page 4, how that font would apply onto our logos, our Power T and our chieftain head. And talking about those logos right here, I'm going to go ahead and skip to the last page, 6. You can see that the committee really thought we needed to keep the logos fresh and clean. And in doing so, you can see the bottom. Moving forward, that is the recommendation, that we make sure that those are red and white, and they stay fresh and clean and easily identifiable as us. This would impact a lot of spaces in the new construction project. It would impact the gym floor. We plan to have the Power T and the chieftain head sprinkled throughout the entire facility. It would also match the turf. So not that we made any decisions based on the turf, we didn't, but what a nice bonus that is. Colors. Well, not a lot changed on colors and how we use colors on our uniforms. This was really small print, so I'm gonna have to hold it up a little closer. Tonganoxie's primary uniform colors are red and white. In uniforms, the main colors and the letters and numbers are red and white. Gold and gray may serve as accent colors. We have in the past, and we would like to recommend moving forward, that the color black shall be used sparingly for spandex, shorts and volleyball, shorts in cross country and track, and in dance pants. The reason for that is that I'm told that any other color than black is not very flattering, and girls build confidence in what they're wearing, and we want them to be as confident as possible before they take the court or the field or wherever they're participating. Also, when needed for high contrast in numbers and lettering, that's when black can also be used as well. When using gold, it is preferred as a metallic instead of a flat color. All uniforms have to be shown and approved by the athletic director and the principal before they're purchased. And that, I think that was a point of contention, not a point of contention, an extra barrier. We want to make sure that our coaches are ordering the right things, and so we're building in an extra signature or approval in that process. You know, we have had, for example, the girls' basketball jerseys were not intended to be black, but when they came back, they were darker than we thought they were going to be. That slipped through the cracks. We want to make sure that doesn't happen anymore. So, what questions does the board have on these recommendations?
I don't personally have any, but I'd like to give the opportunity for other members to speak. Or, well, maybe I would ask one. Was there some previous guidance that we had on hand that this was built off of? Can you answer that?
Yeah, sure. Since I've been here, we followed a policy that was written years ago by previous administration, and it's very similar to this. And when I read it, I can see why they wrote what they wrote. But I'll be honest, it's very similar to what we have written here. I can read it to you if you guys would like me to.
I think maybe we had a copy of that sent out previously. I just was trying to make sure, refresh myself on that a little bit.
Mm-hmm. I would
Is
say
there any
the
other
I have a
questions?
question.
Yeah.
I'm just curious what the process is for the approval. So if I'm a middle school coach and I want to get something, a uniform approved, how do we ensure that, or a high school coach, I guess, but how do we ensure that all of the guidelines that are put in this book are actually going to be followed before the order is placed?
Right. Well, I ordered a bunch of these books, and we're going to educate ourselves on this policy. I've already talked to the incoming AD about how important this process is, that we make sure we get it right. When they work on new uniforms, they work with the AD on that. And moving forward, it's going to get to the AD and be approved by him or her, which in this case is him, and then it will come to me, and then he and I will talk about it, just to make sure that our guidelines are followed.
Does this also include spirit wear as well?
Student wear, I would say this. I would say this includes anything purchased by the school. Anything outside of that, it's hard for us to control. But like the Booster Club, they purchase and they sell things to our community and our kids and our parents and families. They can do what they need to do because they generate quite a bit of revenue for our schools, all of our middle school and high school. So this would apply to school purchase items.
So for example, some coaches order like t-shirts for parents to purchase or students to purchase. Does that qualify under this, or is that separate?
I guess that's something the board can can decide on. It depends on, is this fundraised money? Did kids raise the money? Is this budgeted money that the school is using to outfit our kids? So yeah, that's what I would say.
I mean, it seems that this applies to the uniforms and the stuff the school does, that I guess the stuff I've bought to support teams or the coaches is always a fundraiser that was all paid for by my dollars, I believe. I don't know, Stephanie, what are your thoughts? Any further?
I was just thinking, to keep things consistent, if we truly want to brand our school, that should apply to everything.
Yeah, one thing we could do, and I've been advised that we need to do this, and that is to, I don't know if the word is patent or copyright, the power tee and the chieftain head, so that when people use it, they have to use it right. I think that creates more obligation to use it the same way we do. But our tech department has recommended that we do that, because then somebody else could come in and use it, and then they could patent it, and then we have to pay them. So might be something we need to consider. I don't know that answered your question, Stephanie.
I would add, I don't think you're probably going to have much luck controlling the kinds of t-shirts that various teams come up with. And that might just be too hard for the school to handle. I would probably propose that you consider this brand guidelines for everything coming from the administration of the school. But maybe don't worry about, like, I know girls soccer just got dark red shirts because they like dark red. And I don't see how you would probably want to spend your time trying to tell people they couldn't do that.
Well, I would say that if universities and professional teams have full-time departments dedicated to trying to enforce their brand, I don't know that that's something that we could replicate. I think my opinion is the best we can do is provide this information for everyone. We can follow it. And ultimately, we have no enforcement mechanism if other people in the community want to do something different. I had a couple questions related to the logos on the last page. Was there a reason that the Warriors and Braves logos weren't included in that? Is there something to read into that? Or is it just that they weren't, there wasn't enough time to modify those to include them in this booklet?
Yeah, good question, Drew. I sent you about an hour ago, each board member, check your email. I sent you the new logos for the elementary school and the middle school. You're right, there wasn't enough time to get those on there before I went to the print shop, but I wanted to make sure I sent you those mock-ups. So if you check your email and it's your school email, some of you, I have other emails, so I sent it to like 15 people, but it's really 7. So hopefully, like Drew, I think you might have got it too. So
yeah, I'll look at that. Did we change the direction of the Braves head to be consistent with the others?
yes, we did.
Okay. Another question is, or a comment. It states here above that, it says it is recommended that the district evolve to using a simplified. I would recommend changing that wording to where it's more definite with regards to the intent versus looking at that as a recommendation that implies some option. And then I would just second Kaya's thoughts with regards to the enforcement of it, because we've had the colors before. It's just the challenge of following it consistently between administrations and leaders and being able to interpret it consistently is probably one of my bigger concerns and a challenge I think every organization runs into. So I think having an understanding of, does that run through, athletic director and the principal? Is that if you have the elementary school Is that just the elementary school principal, or is that through somebody else, or just having a little bit more clarity on that in different situations and circumstances? It doesn't necessarily have to be part of this document, but the procedures that are developed after the approval, it sounds to me like that's the intent. Is that correct, Mark?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we talked a lot about branding at the middle school and the elementary school, and frankly, right now, there's not a lot of branding there. There's not a lot of logos, but there are some. And I don't think it's the recommendation of the committee at all to have anybody change anything there. Just go in and take this down and put this up. When it's time to renew or to replace, that's the right time to do it. And,
Well,
and
would
right
it be
now, the
safe?
middle school doesn't. Go ahead.
Yeah, would it be safe to say that as far as being stewards of our budgets, that probably wouldn't be the most feasible thing to do, is to replace something that before it needs to be replaced?
Correct. I would agree with that.
Would it be helpful then in this booklet to add, a line or two about anything after this date, whatever the date is, or anything after January 1, 2021 must use these logos or whatever, like establish some type of procedure, policy, date, timeline, to enforce that?
I think it could. I also think that there is one giant collage at the elementary school. And that's the only thing that this Brave is on. As far as the middle school, I'm not aware of anything that's there, including uniforms. They use warriors. They don't use a warrior head or a chieftain head or a Tongi T. So there's not a lot out there except here. And we're going to enforce this moving forward as soon as the board adopts this. So no, we're not going to throw away jerseys until they're worn out, like Drew said, but we're not going to wait till 2021. So I guess that could be a good idea, Kaya.
Kaya, I would comment that what I've seen in the past with this is it's not the document that initiates when it's adopted. It's the vote and the adoption that we have, would state, a date that it would apply, and moving forward. That's an option as well for clarity.
Well, there's been a few questions raised. I'm sure, it sounds like in concept, all these were good with the colors and the logos and the fonts. But is there some details here that we need to work out before we officially adopt it? We technically don't have it as an action item tonight, but I think we could still approve it if we would like. But I guess I'm seeing a few questions in terms of, I don't know if we need a little more. Well, Drew had a couple recommendations of wordings in the document where we could maybe make an edit or two.
I would say that in conversations with DLR, that we can wait until the June. We can make these changes and present it again to the board, and you can do that in June if you'd like, but that's early. We still have time to do that for construction purposes.
Well, I think then maybe we just, with the feedback you've got tonight, it might be best if we just do it June, and then kind of tie up a couple of those loose ends if that's agreeable.
Is that a date you want in there? Is that like January 2022, 21, August of 2022? Do you want a drop dead date?
I kind of go back to what Drew said, is from the time we adopt it, we can say effective with this date. Here's our standards going forward. I don't know if it has to be in the document, so to say per se. It's going to be if it's going to be a resolution and this whole system's going to be approved, I would think that would be the effective date. Is that agreeable with everyone? I see Kai shaking her head, Drew shaking her head. I can't see everybody. All right. Is there any other feedback from Mark on this? Suggestions? Thanks to Susan and the committee, all the people that put in time on this. I know it came together pretty quick, so. Were you wanting to speak on your one other item, or do you want to talk about if
Yeah.
you want to talk about graduation? I know Mark's getting a lot of heat on graduation, rightfully so, from interested parents, and been asking me a lot of questions. And I think the board's got a little bit of information from Lauren on some possibilities and generalities. I just thought, since he was on the agenda, it would be good just for him to kind of give us an update. And if there's any concerns out there, those get expressed. Otherwise, he would have the green light to go ahead. I did to plan a graduation
Right.
potential ceremony, barring a lot of ifs and buts and things. But anyway, go ahead, Mark.
Okay. Yeah, as you all know, graduation is a hot topic across the country. We are doing everything we can to provide an in-person graduation. That's important to our kids. It's important to our community and families and our staff. So the goal primarily is to find a venue where we can safely have a graduation where families can social distance and follow those guidelines and still have room. So we're looking for that spot. We believe we've found a spot, but we're not able to release that information yet. But I would like to let you know that and get your blessing on the fact that I'd like to do this on June 27th. June 27th, it's tentatively scheduled for 2 o'clock. I'm working on moving that to 11, just because on June 27th, it can get a little steamy by 2 o'clock. And so if we can move that up just a little bit, I'm gonna try to. That's plan A. I need approximately 2 weeks before we can announce that venue. But I would like to announce to parents that we would like to schedule a graduation for June 27th. And if for some reason our COVID-19 restrictions tighten up again, we'll go to plan B. And plan B is this: we'd like to have a drive-through graduation on July 1st. That could be a couple of different places. But right now, we're targeting the front of the East Campus. That doesn't mean we couldn't go to Main Street with consultation with the city, and we'll talk with them about it. We hope by then we're in phase 7. Is there a phase 7? I don't know, but it's beyond phase 3. That's what I do know. So again, plan B is plan B for a reason. We don't want to have to rely on it, but there comes a point when our families and our kids, they're going to want to turn the page, and we're going to lose too many of our seniors if we drag this out into late July, early August. So we want to get it done hopefully on June 27th. The venue thinks that it's possible that we can do that, and it's more likely than not. And so that's what our target is. But I would like to make an announcement on the date tonight.
Do any other board members have any concerns with that? Yes, I didn't really have any, but I just wanted everyone to have some input if they had any thoughts on it. You're not getting any objection, Mark, so I think you have to go ahead. There is some expense to the venue that they're talking about, but between the events that have been canceled this year, there's more than enough offsetting savings to cover the venue. I think the only other thing that one person brought up to me is just we'll look at this as a one-time event because of the nature of the circumstances here. It's not like a new tradition or something like that. But all right, Mark, you got the green light to get your graduation scheduled.
Okay, I appreciate it. And I'm going to say that location is to be determined in that announcement. All right, thank you, guys.
Sounds great. All right, is it Aaron? Are you covering the GMP contract bid, or do we have this DLR for McCown?
I'll kick it off and then flip it over to McCowan
All right. Thank you.
here in a minute. So thanks, Jim. So we have a presentation for you tonight. McCowan will go through the Gmp amendment, which is the guaranteed maximum price amendment to their existing contract for the upcoming work this summer. So this will be inclusive of all the demolition and utility relocation work that will happen between now and the start of next school year. There will be a second guaranteed maximum price amendment contract that will come before you guys later this fall. That will be the cost for the rest of the project. So the ask tonight is Joel is going to walk through that amendment, go over the bid process that compiled the costs. We'll take any questions you guys have about the scope of that project and the cost of the work. And we will ask for the board's approval of that contract amendment so they can start awarding their subcontractors and get to work. So Joel, hand it over to you. You're muted, Joel.
Mute yet?
There you go.
That better? Sorry, I didn't see that on here. Okay. Aaron, were you going to show or share any content, or you want me to do that?
I believe the board members, do you all have the GMP amendment in your packet?
No, it didn't
Joel,
get
if you wouldn't mind pulling it.
Sorry, they didn't get attached, but I forwarded it on to everybody here right at the start of the meeting. But if he has it to share, that would be great.
Joel, would you mind sharing? My internet has kicked me out 3 times already, so.
Sure. Hold on. Okay. So hopefully you can see my screen now. I'm going to go through a couple different documents. The first of which is the AIA document, the A133. This is an amendment to our GMP. So this is actually the contract amendment that we're looking to get approved and executed so that we can move forward with subcontractor agreements and procurement. We have a couple things that are really critical to the schedule with the underground storage tank removal, some private utility locates, and really just getting the procurement started to make sure that we get through our summer schedule here. So if there's any questions, concern, we want to hear them now so that hopefully we can get this approved here this evening. Aaron has reviewed the AIA document here, and anytime, Aaron, step in and let me know if I say anything out of turn. But if you should have a copy of this. The total value that we are proposing today is written in here at $906,694. I'm going to go through a summary of this in just a minute and how we arrived at that and where we're at with budget overall. But we're pretty much right on target. There's a couple scope adds that we're able to squeeze in here, so we feel like we're in really good shape. I'm not going to go through the entirety of this document. There are some clarifications in here that were coordinated with the design team and ESCI to make sure that we understand what's in, what's out. We have some unit rates in here that have to do with contaminated soil and other stuff specific to underground storage and if there's any unsuitable soils. So those are in these clarifications. I'm sorry, I skipped over. There are some allowances in here, and I will talk about those in the summary, but real quick, there's a $5,500 allowance for private utility locates. So this is above and beyond a, where you call it or you dig it phone number. This is getting out with ground penetrating radar and finding the utilities that are not typically shown with that. This is something that is very critical, especially with the utility relocates that we've got in such a tight corridor, making sure we find stuff early so we can plan around it rather than finding it out in the act. So that's going to be very important. $15,000 allowance is included for asphalt patching. This is important too as we coordinate with the utility plans. And Aaron can speak to this a little bit, but between the gas company, Evergy, Midco, making sure that we really coordinate the utility plan. And I'm going to pull that up for 1 second so you can understand what we're dealing with. We do have contract requirements in here for where we know we're going to hit utilities and have to patch back some of that. But there's other areas that kind of came late to coordinating with utilities. We want to make sure we have that covered. So we turn this over to you in a reasonable format at the end of this. So while I have the site plan up, of course, our new additions going in here, but all of this work really is related to everything getting ready for that new addition to go in. This demolition plan shows what's part of the scope is to demo out the district offices, the what we affectionately call the old church, those structures, the storage facilities down here. Otherwise, most of this work really is earthwork and utility related in relocating those utilities. So that's generally the scope of it. I wanted to review that for a second. And then the last allowance that we have in is $14,000 for polished concrete at the existing high school gymnasium, that corridor right in front. This was kind of a last minute change. We wanted to get started and have the work performed during the summer. So right now we're carrying an allowance until we can bid that out. Once we bid that out and know the full value of that, any shortfall or overage will either be adjusted within our construction contingency in the project or via change order, either deductive or additive. But we feel like that's a fair number, conservative, so we should be fine there. I'm not overly concerned about that.
Sorry, Jill, but just for the board to understand why that it seems a little odd in what is a site work and utility package. But in conversations with the district, there's the existing flooring in that area has been in pretty rough shape, and there were some plans to potentially do some work to it over the summer to make it better for next school year. The long-term renovation plans for that area call for polishing all the concrete in that, removing the VCT and polishing those floors. So we kind of looked at it and said, well, why don't we go ahead and just do that section since this summer instead of doing a temporary fix and then coming and doing the polished concrete later in the building package. So it's just kind of moving it forward in the timeline a little.
Okay. So I'm going to run through the summary and then I'll check to see if there's any questions. Otherwise, stop me if something seems like it needs to be addressed. So I mentioned our proposal today is for $906,694. So I'm going to share with you how we got there. So back in March, we did an estimate based on DLR Group's schematic design drawings. That's in the summary in the blue column. So at that time, the same scope of work we thought was worth about $883,800 all in. We're currently sitting at 906, so that's just over $22,000. But there's some things that got added in here that explain why we're a little bit up. So first on this is our general conditions. overall in the master budget, we're not changing or going up on our general conditions. But to be fair, this is a larger number on here, so I wanted to explain it. Our job site trailer, our laydown and job compound is being paid for right up front in this first package. So you're not going to pay for that again in the main package. So it feels like this is a little heavy on the GCs, but it's because this is what we normally start. If this would have been done all in the same phase, the value of this wouldn't have changed. So I just wanted to point that out because it is one of the larger numbers on here. So just wanted to be fair. The next of these, the demolition package, we received 9 bids. Originally, we had a low bidder in here at $31,877. They got disqualified for failing to include backfill as a requirement. So we had to go to the second bidder, who is Dale Brothers, at $38,500. So that's the difference between bid day and where we are today. On the underground storage tank removal, which is UST underground storage tank, Genesis Environmental had submitted their bid form with their unit rate to remove contaminated soils separate. So on bid day, we did not read the appropriate total number. We had asked that they include an allowance for contaminated soil removal, and we wanted to make sure they included that for bid comparison. So everybody else had included that, and we needed to update that. So that's the difference there of roughly $4,074, actually, to be exact, once we got that included. We had 5 big bids in that package. Electrical, we had 6 bids. Bart's Electric was apparent low on bid day, and they're currently low now. They scoped out and qualified. Earthwork and site demolition, Blue Moon was low on bid day, and they qualified out. Also on utilities, Blue Moon was actually low on bid day at $251. The difference here is roughly, it's actually $20,500. This includes an allowance that we talked about previously in the GMP document, the $15,000 asphalt patch allowance to coordinate with utilities. It also includes the $5,500 for the private utility locates. So that's the difference between those two numbers. Okay. And as far as the allowances, once we have those numbers firmed up, we will share those with you in full transparency, as we always do. So if the number comes down, like I hope it will, we can either shift that back into contingency, or we can shift that over to the owner's side of the ledger at a later date. Our general requirements, which is really temporary fencing, that kind of temporary requirements on site. So that's remained unchanged through the job. And then the rest of these are per contract percentage rates. So really it's the difference here that we're looking at. So if you were to take out the polished concrete, $14,000, and the patching allowance, we would actually be under budget at the moment. So I feel really good about where we are, considering we're putting polished concrete into this package and still really close on target. So with that, I'm just going to open it up to any questions and see how we can help.
Any questions from the board?
I have
The
a
only
question.
Go ahead, Drew.
So the general, I have a couple questions. I'll just go through them, and so that we don't have the delay issues. General conditions, I'd just like a refresh on what that includes and over what duration of the project that includes that for. Sounded to me like some things for the overall project. I was curious to know whether that included both phases or just the first phase. Then another question I had was regarding the polished concrete. whether or not that was something that was foreseen as part of the scope and it just moved forward, or it was work that was planned and budgeted elsewhere. And now we're wrapping it into this, the bond program for other reasons. So I'd like some, and that may be a clarification from our administration on that. And then you answered my question on the allowances that I had. So I appreciate that, Joel.
Sure. Okay. So let me start with the easy one. The polished concrete, the 14,000. In the original bond program, we had planned some finish work in that space, but it was a patch repair of the floor. It did not include a full replacement with polished concrete. So there is a little bit in the master budget to cover this, but not all of that is, not all 14,000. I would say it's probably less than 4,000 of that was budgeted originally. So then the general conditions.
And what I would, Joel, what I would add there is Mitch Loomis really brought this to our attention. That area of flooring was in very bad shape in that hallway. And he was very excited about an opportunity to have that tile removed and to go down this path with the polished concrete. I think it's going to be a good move.
And I think
absolutely.
To Lauren's point, the school district probably would have spent money this summer doing a temporary fix. And so this is avoiding, I think, a temporary fix and going straight to the long-term fix. The design development budget that will be presented next week has some more specific cost updates for the planned renovations for that existing school area, which includes some additional areas of polished concrete along that corridor.
Okay. So the general conditions piece, all of this, except for 95,000. So I'm just going to round it off. Roughly $100,000 of this is in sequence. The other 95,000 is out of sequence, Drew. So we're paying for some of that up front because we're phasing the construction. It's not costing you anymore, but I just wanted to be up front because this is pretty heavy for GCs for a package this small. So I bring this up just to make sure if anybody has any questions or reservations. But, you know, if you think about it, if this was all done in one sequence, you'd be paying for your job trailer, your supervision to mobilize the site and all that, you know, right up front anyway. This is just showing it because it's a separate package. So the general conditions, most of that, if not all of that, is actually supervision on site. The general requirements is our temp fence, job trailer, some of the other stuff that goes along with the
Joel, I just want to
laydown yard,
clarify.
temp rock, so.
I had no objection. I was just wanting clarification. That's all.
Yeah. Okay. Was that all the questions?
Did Justin have one?
I was going to ask about the polished concrete. I think we're good.
I had one other question that I just thought of, Joel, was what was the bid spread here? Because just how understanding the range, it looks like we have a great number of bids on every package, so that's fantastic. I just didn't know what the spread was with regards to, you know, the competitiveness.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't have the bid tab pulled up here. We shared this with the rest of the team, but the bids were great. We had pretty tight grouping on most of these, with the exception of the one that dropped out, which was pretty obvious. Yeah, I thought the grouping was really good. And if you look at the demolition package that had 9, some of these are actually combination packages that included earthwork and demolition. So there's really not one package that had less than 4 bids all in. So we had a great turnout. The market right now is really chomping at the bit to get their backlog in place because of what's going on in the market right now. We bid a project just right down the street that turned in some record lows, quite honestly. We're waiting to see how that shakes out in August when the rest of this package will bid. But, you know, we had some really good numbers here. And, you know, if you look at the estimate, all right, you know, I know the demolition package looks like we actually overestimated it, but when you blend it with the electrical, that looks like got underestimated. We just didn't bucket the utility coordination and demolition of electrical into the right buckets with our estimate. So that doesn't tell the best story, but overall, we're right on target. And in fact, I think we're a little bit under with some of the scope changes. So we're really excited to get started. Hopefully we can get going.
I've got one question. This is Jim with, and maybe this goes with Aaron. I mean, the only thing I have, the copy of the GMP amendment that was emailed to me, I don't know what date that was now here. It had just a slightly different number. It was like 907-734. So I don't know if there's a new revised document maybe it needs to be sent to us to get signed.
The one that you should have, hopefully, Aaron, the AIA should be 906-694. The 907 number is, it's the difference in the permit. So down here, there's actually a permit line that's 0. I was originally carrying the permit percentage in this, but we are pushing that to the main package. So the city has agreed not to charge us on that until the package in August. So that's when we'll pick up the permit fee. So that's the difference in the 907 number that you saw a week ago versus where we are right now.
Looks like I got this on Friday at 10 o'clock or something. So there's probably been a little edit.
Yeah. Yeah, Jim, let me.
Well,
let me make sure that I've got that new updated form from them.
Okay, and then when we approve that, you need a hard copy signature, or can Audra stamp it, or how do we need to do this? I'm assuming it's going to get passed here in our action items, but just kind of the logistics of all this.
Jim,
yeah, there is a signature line ultimately.
Yeah, whether you guys sign it, it's stamped, it's signed electronically, it doesn't matter to us.
Okay.
Whatever you're more comfortable with.
Well, I can go down to the office pretty quick here. It's just down a couple blocks away, but well, if you get us that other copy, Aaron or whoever, is there any other questions from the board on the?
I do have a question.
Okay.
So when we were going through the initial process of hiring, the construction company, et cetera, one of the questions that we asked repeatedly was whether, you include and, look at bids from local companies when you're going through this process. And I know that was something that was important to us at that point. And so I guess I just want to have reassurance that when you're going through this process that, that was it's something that was important to the board at that time. And maybe it's changed, through this, I don't know, but I wanted to ask that question.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember those conversations before we were brought on board. Yeah, it's very important that we get the local contractors involved, and we did. Our list of bidders that we send our invitations out got circulated with the district, and we made sure the local bidders are involved. So I know there was one in particular, I'm not going to name names, that we made sure was on the list. There's a couple other ones on there. You know, this, even though we didn't open this in front of the trade partners, we still opened it publicly to the district. So they were there as we were opening and reading numbers aloud and the trade partners' names. So they're aware of how that played out. So it was a very transparent process. And, you know, Lauren, I don't know if you want to add anything, or Aaron, but we did engage the locals. And, you know, this is a smaller package, so there's not that many locally that do the earthwork and site work here, but we're definitely going to make sure we continue that process on the main package in August.
So Kyle, one thing I might add is that to Joel's point, not only did we try to engage companies that are local, or companies themselves that are local, but we continue to review the invite list with Kyle Kelly and other associates that live in Tongi or around Tongi, to also try to pick up those companies that, while they may not be based there, they have a high employee basis, so that ideally as many people that live there can work on the project. And so we're continuing to do that as much as we can.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, hearing none, I think Aaron, I think there's a project update from you.
Yes.
And I think I passed that on. That's what I just emailed out to everybody. I'm sorry. I don't think it got in the packet either.
Okay, I can share my screen here. Just a minute. Hopefully it won't kick me out.
Justin, do you have that email? I don't know, maybe if she has trouble getting on.
Yeah, I can have it up. If she has any trouble, I can share it.
Erin needs to update her logo.
Anyway, it's not approved yet.
Yeah. All right, can you guys, obviously you can see my screen now.
Yes.
Okay, so just run through kind of the baseline project update here, talk through some dates, some key critical issues. So really no update on the master budget. We're still running with, we had the pre-bond. Current is actually still sitting at the schematic design presentation that was made. So this will get updated after our design development budget update that's occurring next week. And so there's no changes there from the last board meeting. Going into schedule, I did highlight here in red one small change. What we were, the baseline schedule, these are substantial completion dates for different parts of the project. And this utility demo package baseline date, it was kind of just a misinterpretation of McCown's earlier schedule that did not include the utility startup and punch list phase of the utility work. So I've updated that to be the completion of that utility demo work is essentially just before the first day of activities on campus for the school year this fall. So going into some key deliverable dates, we have completed the deliverables for the design development package and the the GMP board package, which was delivered to you guys last week, and we just went through today. So the next steps here, we've got the design development board package that will be coming out later at the end of this week for the special board meeting next Monday. And then following that, the next deliverable from the design team will be the construction document package for pricing, and then delivering that budget package and GMP to the board. Other upcoming milestone dates. We had the city planning and zoning meeting last week, and that was the project site plan was approved at that meeting. And we had the city council meeting on next Monday evening. That will be to get final approval on the project and the new utility easements that have been requested. So we have tonight's presentation for the GMP for the site package. And as I mentioned, we'll be doing the design development board presentation next Monday, which will also coincide with McAllen Gordon beginning their mobilization process for this early bid package. So that'll start happening next Monday. Start seeing some activity on the site and setting up construction fencing and preparing to start their demo and utility work. So I believe the district's made great progress with vacating the choir building in the district office. So I know the date on here is the 22nd, but I believe all those arrangements have been made. So we're in good shape to get in there and start the abatement work, which is a district hired subcontractor to do some remediation in there before the contractors come in to actually demolish the buildings. So McAllen Gordon will then start the fuel station and building demolition the end of May, 1st of June. And then we have some future dates out here for the Learning Center relocation and start of the Fitness and Wellness Edition. So that's kind of what the schedule looks like coming up. So going into just a few things that are going on, explain some activities we're chasing and addressing. Just want to talk about the beginning of the mobilization work for this early bid package. And so beginning 5/18, McAllen will be coming to the site. They'll start disconnecting all the utilities that feed the entire campus. And those utilities will mainly remain turned off until they get reconnected and started up again in late July, early August timeframe. So just want to kind of bring attention to that. Had this on here for a little while, but the fuel station and bus parking, knowing that when McAllen starts that work, that the west entry there will be closed off, and the bus parking and obviously the use of the fuel tank will be out of service. Then I just listed here, and I have a sheet following about soft costs that are associated with the work this summer. So McAllen Gordon just presented their costs for the bid out construction work. The excuse me, the school district also has some scopes of work that will be coming out of the soft cost portion of the bond budget this summer. Those are the abatement, utility system development fees from the city for water and sewer, the gas line relocation costs from Kansas Gas, the fiber relocation, and some construction materials inspections.
I have a question related to that.
Yeah.
And this may be for Lauren. I noticed in the upcoming agenda item for the warrant list for bills that the gas relocation, half the deposit was in there. Is the intent to be paying for that? Is that showing it out of our general fund, or is that coming from different accounts? How's that working? So just didn't know the soft costs were coming from bond money versus our other accounts.
I can answer that for you. So yes, that it will be coming out of the bond. Sorry, I lost connection here, but and I can jump to this page, Drew.
You don't have to
present the DD budget.
No need to reorganize. Okay. It's just something that at some point I'd like to have.
Yeah. Yeah. So the abatement is, or the utility relocation costs, Kansas gas costs are coming from the soft costs within the bond budget. So McCown Gordon's construction is approximately 40 million of the overall bond project. The other 10 or so million is soft costs. So that Kansas gas comes out of that 10 million. And so that's the side of the budget that I've been tracking and putting together. And I have it updated with some of the parts associated with this early bid package and working on the rest of it for the DD presentation next week.
Was that just a reporting issue then, or how it flowed through our warrants, or maybe all the checks are going to throw through the warrants? Lori?
Yes, they will all be on the warrant list like the others. Did we discuss separating them from that warrant list? Basically, that warrant list is just everything that's cut.
No, I think we separated it on the financial report where the pledging is and the detail of every month. So that's where it's separated. So Drew, it's all the checks, every check that gets written flows through that warrant list.
Yeah.
Okay. Independent of which account it comes from.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, so continuing down here, am I still sharing, or I need to reshare, don't I?
Right.
Sorry. So the next item I had on here was permit fees. So we, after some discussion with the city regarding fees applicable to this project, did I lose you guys again on video?
It's trying, but it's not there yet, Aaron.
Why don't you let me
Okay.
share and see if it'll make a difference. Where were you at, Aaron?
Second page.
Second page.
There you go.
Yeah, he got it up.
All right, so permit fees, just wanted to share that after discussion with the city, they agreed that this project was not, the excise tax that the city carries is not applicable to this project. So that was good news because it would have been a rather large amount. So we'll just have the standard building permit fees with the credit that the district has on file, along with some system development fees for this project. Abatement work, as I mentioned, has been awarded. New Horizons will be performing abatement on the district office building for this summer portion of the work. we talked about the polishing of the concrete floors in the East Campus already as part of the GMP presentation. So I think we've covered that. And then interior finishes. We've had a couple of presentations from DLR on interior finishes, and just had a second one this morning showing some cool colored 3D renderings that will be part of the materials shared with the board tomorrow in advance of the design development package. So really looking forward to sharing those. I think they've made some really great progress, and it'll be great for you guys to see and see how much has been developed. So talked a little bit about master budget, but that is the soft cost or the district cost side of the bond project. And the next slide here will share kind of a update for the work that's happening this summer, and the presentation for the DD next week. We'll share a little bit more of an update for the overall project. And then last item here I had was West Campus scope. I think there have been some questions from the board regarding West Campus. So I have included a couple slides at the end here that we can walk through if you guys have any more questions on that. If you want to go to the next, down to the next page, please. So my attempt here was to pull out some of the parts of the master budget that are applicable to this early summer site package, and show you that we overall those scopes are aligning with the budget within that $10 million soft cost. So first category in red was the utility and development fees. So with the high cost on the Kansas gas, obviously a little bit more than we anticipated, kind of threw off this number a little bit and ended up going over that $150,000 budget, but obviously made that up quite a bit in the abatement. Abatement came in well under. So we've got $41,000 in abatement costs that we know about, leaving kind of an allowance in there for some unforeseen that a couple areas we just aren't quite sure about yet later in the project. And then under inspections, really the only number that is associated with this summer's work is this $12,000, which will be some site work, backfill and trenching testing that will be performed by the Special Inspection Agency. The other numbers are kind of allowances right now. The city inspections will also be this summer. The city has a third party that does inspections for the public utilities that will be installed. So overall, with the anticipated work this summer, I think everything looks pretty good with the fees associated with the soft costs. So any other questions on that? And we can talk about West Campus.
I had a question, Aaron.
Yeah.
Is this typically what you see from Kansas Gas on projects like this?
So this one's a little bit different. I think that the high cost here is, you've got a couple issues. You're coming underneath the highway and having to bore underneath the highway. And then just the length of the distance they have to go to meet up with the existing utility locations. So I think it's a little bit high, but like they said, it is an estimate, and they are like other utilities where they give you an estimate and then they will bill you for actual costs. So that's why they're asking for only 50% up front, and it will be trued up when the project finishes.
I wish they were as generous as Evergy.
Right?
Very good, thank
Yeah,
you.
they aren't as generous. So, Lauren, if you want to jump in on this at all, I think, again, this was put into the package here just to walk through for a general understanding of how the spaces within West Campus are planned to be used. So it'll be part of the DB presentation that DLR does next week, but just wanted to give you guys a general overview. I tried to color code it. So the yellow, this is the north, coming the north side of the West Campus there. And the yellow spaces will be used for district offices. And the intent there was to add some doors into those hallways that could really define that as district office space, separate from the rest of the building. The red is boardroom and boardroom support spaces. And the orange is the new wrestling training room. All the white areas are unprogrammed spaces, I guess. You've got the classrooms on the left that I know the district has some thoughts on programming. There's a few offices there in the middle that off of the boardroom area there that will kind of remain as is and can be used for other functions down the road. Go to the next page. Thank you.
Hey, Lauren, I think we're getting feedback from your mic. If you could mute, I think that's, thank you.
Okay, so the yellow area there on the right is district storage. That room is kind of remaining as is. The blue there in the area, or the blue there in the middle, is shared space with the rec commission. So those restrooms can be used by the rec, but also, you know, are kind of off the general corridor access there. And then the classroom presentation room there has been discussed that will be used by the district, but can possibly be shared with the rec on occasion. The green areas are for the rec commission spaces that they will use. And then if you go down to the next page, show you again the green with the gymnasium, storage room, and one old classroom there on the right will be for rec commission space. The locker rooms will remain for wrestling use, not for use by the rec commission. So I think that was a general rundown. Were there any questions specific to that? Did I hit what you guys were expecting?
And I think Lauren's going to go over this a little bit more. Now, this pictures help, I think. I know he's been talking a lot with the rec. The only question biggest question I've posed to him is just how we're going to use the locker rooms, or how we're going to manage that between the rec and the school. But I think this just helps people get a visual of kind of the discussions that have been going on. I don't know if there's any other questions or comments. I don't hear any. So we're having the meeting next, this portion of your presentation is kind of done for next week, and we have to approve the design development for the next phase. Are we going to get information tomorrow, or is it going to be on Friday when we get that, or kind of what's the plan there so we can look at?
So tomorrow the board will receive a package of design documents, DD design documents. We didn't want to send you the entire, 600-page design document novel, but we've talked with the design team about it'll be floor plans, some 3D renderings of the interior and exterior to show you kind of where the design is at in relation to the design development of the project. So you'll get those tomorrow and have the rest of the week to review that. If you have questions, in advance as you start reviewing it, we can try and field some of those. And then Thursday, our intent is Thursday to wrap up the actual presentation that includes the budget information associated with the DD documents and get that sent out.
Okay, so I guess if people have questions, they can just contact you and Lauren and kind of go from there to get any clarification.
Yeah, I think if we can, if there's anything that we can try and address before the board meeting next Monday, that would be great, and hopefully make that that presentation go as smooth as possible.
All right, is there any other questions by the board members on anything while we still have Count Gordon, DLR, and Aaron with us?
I have a quick question on the West Campus. There's a number of rooms that are not color coded at all. Are those just unallocated spaces?
Yeah, and I don't know if Lauren or Tanya want to speak to that more, but some of them are storage spaces. The kitchen, the existing kitchen there is going to be left as is, and really no intended use for it by either the Rec Commission or the district at this point. And then, I think there's some programming, Tanya or Lauren, for some of the other spaces in the future.
Drew, what I would add is, yes, those spaces are going to be developed as we move forward. And I know Tanya has some plans for them. Could be adult education classes. It could be alternative learning type opportunities. But I think eventually that whole west side will be used at some point.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Well, hearing none, thank you, Aaron. Appreciate everything, and DLR and all the folks from Count Gordon as well. With that, we'll move on through our agenda to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, I got Kaya made a motion and Justin seconded it. Any debate? Seeing none, we'll go, hearing none. Go for a voice vote. Chris,
Yes.
Drew,
Aye.
Justin,
Aye.
Kaya,
Aye.
Aaron,
Yes.
Stephanie,
Aye.
and Jim, aye. All right, motion carried. With that, we'll move on to item 3, which I believe now becomes the administrator. Sorry here, I've got too many things open. The report, Lauren, your superintendent report.
Okay, first of all, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I know I've been on other Zoom meetings, I've been having that same issue that Drew just mentioned. So we need to get that cleared up. First of all, let me touch on the West Campus and the Rec Commission. Yes, we've had a series of good meetings with the Rec Commission, mainly Gail Parker and Brad Eccles. We've met a couple times on Zoom. And in my report, you're seeing that the Board of Directors of the Tonganoxie Rec Commission has a meeting on May 21st. And then about right after their meeting, they would like to set up a tour of West Campus with myself and a couple of other people that might want to attend to kind of, so they can look at those spaces and puts a kind of a final stamp of approval on all the areas that we're talking about. And Jim has mentioned in some of his previous emails, after May 21st, we would like to set up a meeting between their board of directors and maybe a committee of board members to go into the talk about the rent, the lease. And so we're right to that point. And so that's something that I'd ask Mr. Bothwell to address here later in the meeting, or if you want to do it now, that's up to you, Jim.
Well, I think probably the most appropriate point maybe just be right now as part of Lauren's report. I think I followed up on his Friday update. I don't know if there's anyone that, well, I think, was it Drew volunteered right off the bat?
I volunteered, Jim.
All right. Drew, Justin, is there anyone else? I mean, I'd be more than willing to give up my seat at one of these meetings, but I have been involved a little bit at this point. If anyone else, is there a third member that would be dying to be on this committee?
Okay.
All right.
All right. So I have Drew, Justin, and Jim, and I'll let you all know when that meeting will be set up with the board of directors.
Yeah, and I might just share while everyone's got, I mean, Lori's been kind of pulling costs, what are our utilities? And I think that's the point of the information that Aaron shared, is just kind of what spaces, and there's some details of some of those areas have to be repaired or regardless if the rec's in there or not. So, I mean, we've got a lot of costs we've got to spend. I don't think there's really any dollars intended to allocate, make their spaces nice. It's just trying to partner up per the community's desire to team them with us through this process. But we do need to figure out if we can arrive at a reasonable figure that's fair to them and fair to us. So I guess more to come unless anybody has a strong opinion or a question right now.
The one thing I would add to that, Jim, is the people with the Rec Commission have been great to work with and very open to what we're trying to do. They see a great opportunity here as well as we do. So I think it's going to work out very well for both the school district and for the Rec Commission. I have a few more topics I just want to touch on real quick, kind of give you an update. I know in some of my previous Friday reports, I've been talking about our issues with our football field lights. I did meet with Jim and Chris last week, and what we ultimately decided was to not pursue trying to replace the lights. And we're going to go down the path of repairing what we currently have. And I did receive a bid from capital or a potential expense from Capital Electric this afternoon. The most expensive thing, of course, is bringing in a 120-foot lift truck to work on a couple of the light poles. But that's going to be my plan, is to pursue that. We have anywhere between 4 and 8 lights that either need to have ballast replaced or some sort of wiring repair. But we'll get those patched up prior to school starting in August.
Hey,
Keep our
Lauren,
fingers crossed.
yeah, I mean, I might jump in. I mean, these lights are obviously getting close to their useful life. I mean, we don't want to throw good money after bad, but I think we thought it was prudent to investigate kind of we know what replacement costs, what does repair costs, and kind of weigh it out and see what the timing of everything is. So anyway, just more information coming, and a decision we'll have to make here down the road soon.
You bet.
I have a quick question, and maybe this is ridiculous, but in my, I don't know, so I'm going to ask. So when we're doing the construction on the high school, is there a time that there's a company that's there with a lift that works with that could do the same thing, could help us out or whatever? And then in that same vein, would you be able to use the same electrical company that's working on the high school to replace those lights? And if so, would you get a better bid from somebody who's already there?
My initial response is there's not going to be anybody there at the time of the construction before August that would have a 120-foot lift. And Joel or Luke, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't see it.
Lauren, you're right. I wouldn't expect there to be anybody there that would have a lift that large. And also the lights tend to be a specialized trade. And so with athletic field lights, there's only really 1 or 2 companies in the entire metro that work on them. They're my experience.
I would agree. Okay, my next project has been the transportation/maintenance building site work, which we did receive some initial drawings from Schlegel's that I did forward on to the city. And the next thing that we need to do is to get on the it's called the pre-package or pre-development meeting review. And I've been working with both Jim and Chris on this project, and I'll be visiting with George Brakovich either tomorrow or Wednesday to see where we're at or what else we need to do to keep that project moving forward, especially in terms of just the site work. So there's been a lot of work gone into this, but it's a slow process. And so we just try to keep moving it forward, inching it forward, basically. Is there any questions about that? I mean, it's still developing. It would be my best way to describe it. The next project, I'm going to be meeting with both Mitch and Lori tomorrow, but we're identifying summer projects and what some of those costs might be. I know there's been some discussion about some HVAC issues on existing facilities that will not be renovated. So we'll be talking tomorrow, and I'll let everybody know what those projects might look like as we head into the summer. I know that Tanya and I have been working on a lot of special ed topics, especially services that need to be delivered in either June or July. So I know that that's just been a topic that we've worked on almost every other day. So there's a lot going on there. I will have to tell you this, that the new district office location, and some of you have been able to stop by and see what we've moved into, but it has been an incredible facility for our staff. And I mean, it is really nice, and the people here have been so accommodating. It's just refreshing is the best way I can put it. And we feel very blessed to have this facility at our, for our usage for the next couple of years. And we couldn't ask for a better situation, I'll be honest with you. Then one other thing I just want to touch base on with Tanya is we will be meeting with our staff. We're going to start out with a meeting with our Tonganoxie Educational Association. I think Wednesday we have a meeting. We're going to have to start coming up with some plans for what school is going to look like in August. And right now, we don't know. There's no way for us to predict that we're going to start school on August 15th or 16th. And as we get closer to the middle of June, I know that this is all going to ramp up with schools across the state. I mean, is everything going to be reopening? Is there going to be a setback? I mean, there's just so much unknown here. But one of the things we do know is if we do start school back, it probably will not look the same. And we have to prepare for that. And it might be one of the things that we're going to talk about is we may have to use or move some professional development days from our calendar up before school starts, just so that we can start doing some training for our staff, for whatever that might be. There are a lot of what ifs that are out there that every school district is asking themselves with no answers. So I kind of turn it over to Tanya for just a second, because a lot of this is curriculum driven, and it's going to be scheduling. There's just a multitude of things that you're going to be hearing about probably from parents. Tanya, is there anything you want to add to this at this point?
I think there are a lot of unknowns, and we are taking our cues from the State Department. So they are prepared to provide guidance for us in whatever direction we need to go. But as part of that, we are putting together plans for summer instruction, whether it is summer school, credit recovery, driver's ed. We have a meeting this week with the city to determine what's feasible to offer. We will also have, according, to fall, we'll probably have plan A, plan B, plan C. And, based on what happens with COVID, we could be providing a hybrid. So a lot of that depends on what happens. We don't know what happens week to week with this pandemic. So we will work very closely with the Kansas State Department of Education to make sure that we are meeting our requirements. We'll provide training and support for teachers and students and families. We're going to do the best we can.
Well, we're going to need a lot of input from our staff and our administration. And I also want you to know, we are following, the governor's recommendation, all the different phases. We've been working with the county, with the city, and with the state. But also, I do have meetings on Tuesdays and Fridays with Dr. Randy Watson and Dale Dennis and Brad Newswander and all the superintendents across Kansas. So we're not alone. We're all working together. If anybody asks you, what's going on, honestly, the answer right now is we don't know what school is going to look like, if we're going to have sports this fall, all those questions that are, everybody's asking about. So we're just following the recommendations that are provided us as best we can. And that's all I have.
I have a question. So apparently recently there was a document released by the Missouri School Board Association with regards to recommendations or options. Do we anticipate that Kansas will be doing something similar to that? And if so, do we have any indication of when?
Yes, what Dr. Watson has told us, June 15th seems to be kind of a target date, 15th and 16th. They're slow playing this because of the great unknown. They're not going to put together a lot of work and then it all gets retracted because of setbacks. And I think even Greenbush, who our service center in Lawrence is, they're contacting us 4 times a week with help. So we'll have plenty of help, Drew. But right now, I think the state of Kansas is probably slow playing it more than Missouri for their own reasons.
Hey, Lauren, I certainly understand the unknown and it seems like a prudent answer. Does it make sense to do some sort of a postmortem on what happened from March through now, just while it's fresh on everyone's mind, in case there's some flavor of virtual education that comes in August? You know, what did teachers experience? What did administrations experience? What did families experience? What technology issues did we see? Just, you know, in 3 months, it won't be as fresh.
That's an excellent observation. This is something that we talked about at our last administrative meeting. One of the big things I'll tell you right now, Justin, is we saw when we first started in March through April, we saw a high amount of connectivity. The students were highly motivated. I think even there was a tremendous amount of parent support, and that support has waned in the last 2 weeks. And we saw more students not staying engaged or attempting to stay engaged. And there might have been a lot of reasons for that. Could have been accountability. It could have been grades or how much pressure they might have seen as, are their grades going to change? Or so there's just a lot of things going on there.
Parent burnout is one of them.
Well, there's just, I mean, I think this is something for all the board, we will definitely take a hard look at. My initial response, if we go into August under the same circumstances that we experienced March, April, and May, we're going to have to do something entirely different. This was not the answer. It was a temporary fix or a Band-Aid for a situation we weren't prepared for. And Tanya, I don't know if you could say it any differently than that, but we were very encouraged early, very excited about how things went for the first few weeks, but it's been a little disappointing in the last week or so.
Well, it's pretty normal, you know, at this time of year anyway, toward the end of school, participation in class, in person, always goes down. Everybody's ready to be done with school. So it did not surprise me that happened at all. And teachers already have ideas for next year. If we have to do school like this again, there are already changes that they are wanting to make. But, you know, based on providing no professional development for teachers and just saying, hey, you have to do school online now, I am just amazed at our staff, the resiliency, they've just been amazing.
So that we will take that into account. We will do a review of what was successful, what we needed to do better. Go ahead.
If we could include some parents in that, as far as how their experience or some perspective with that, I think that would be good, especially some different perspectives from working parents to parents with multiple kids in different grades, how that's been coordinated. I think that would be really valuable.
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
I think what would be interesting to me is if you could take a cross section of a few kids from each grade or whatever, and I don't know what the testing would be appropriate, but I know that throughout the school year, they do testing to see if they're, you know, making certain marks. But, you know, I have 4 kids, 2 in middle school and 2 in high school, and they say that they feel like they learned the same things that they would have in the classroom, but they had less practice. So what I, as a parent, would be interested in knowing is how that tests out. So is that true? Are they still tracking along the same type of scoring that they would if they would have been in school?
Okay.
And then a quick question for me, what does the graduation rate look like? Is this affecting that or going to affect that?
It's about the same as it's been the past few years. Tonganoxie has always had a really high graduation rate. We work really hard with those students in high school who are borderline not going to graduate on time. We have credit recovery put in place for those students. And for those students that we know are those borderline kids, we have been contacting those students multiple times a week to make sure that they're on track. They're getting their credit recovery done. We also have the opportunity this summer, whether it's in person or virtually, to help those students continue to gain those credits to graduate.
Very good. Thank you.
But you guys all made good points. And those are things that we're going to talk about as we head into June. And obviously, if we know that we have to make huge adjustments going into August and September, that'll be very valuable, very valuable. That's all I have, Jim.
All right. Is there any other questions for Lauren? Now we'd move on to Tanya. I don't know, Tanya, if you have any additional information.
That was pretty much my report.
Lauren stole it all.
Stole my thunder.
All right. Well, with that, we will move on to the action items. Item 4.1 is the approval of the McCown-Gordon guaranteed max price contract. I think that was discussed quite a bit earlier. I don't know if there's any other questions. If there's no comments, I would entertain a motion to approve the GMP contract.
Is there a reference that we need to do as part of that motion?
Is there what now?
A reference as far as a number or code, or just rather than the GMP? Just a procedural question.
The number was 906-694, I believe, is the one that Joel presented.
I move to approve the GMP 906. What was the number again?
694.
694.
Second.
All right, Drew moved, Justin seconded. Do a voice vote. Chris?
Aye.
Drew?
Aye.
Justin?
Aye.
Kaya?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
Stephanie?
Aye.
Jim, I'll vote yes. Motion carried. Started on a new school. All right. And item 4.2 is just a personnel matter. I don't think there's any, I don't know if you have anything to say on this, Lauren, or it's just not, I guess.
There's no need for an executive session on this.
All right, it's first year. I think it's just a first year teacher. Anyway, I guess I would move that we approve the non-renewal contract identified under action item 4.2 of tonight's agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
A second. Oh.
Justin got the second. So I moved and Justin seconded. We'll do the ladies first this time. Kaya?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
Stephanie?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Drew?
Aye.
And Justin? Justin, are you there? Justin? He must have cut out. He had the second, so I think he's for it. I'll vote for it. Motion carried. Yeah, back on. All right. I don't believe there's any need for an executive session unless there's another board member has a reason for that. I don't believe I had any other general discussion. There's nothing we didn't already talk about. Is there, Lauren? I think we got everything. So any other board members have any other comments or that haven't already been stated?
I had a couple things real quick. Lauren, with regards to the bus facilities, one thing I thought of, which was is definitely a little bit outside the box considering it's different, is have we looked at whether or not, or what options there is to, if we did not have fueling at that location and utilized a business in town that was set up, or if there was one that was set up for bus filling. I didn't know if that fueling facility was actually that expensive or not. But that would be something I'd be interested in, just have it look at, just because maybe that creates more flexibility for us, even as part of a phasing.
Okay, so I visited with Chris and Jim about this, a plan B, because there's a great chance that that's not going to be ready before October, November. It's moving along slower than I would like, but it's just what it is. So Chris has also told me that there's probably going to be some great flexibility in placing a fuel tank at a location that we agree with, that we'll be able to use temporarily. And I agree with that. So instead of buying at the pump, we think we can come up with an alternative that'll work in a temporary setting.
Okay.
Hey, Drew, I mean, just for your benefit too, though, with the price of fuel down, I mean, we did discuss that even the worst case, if we had to buy it at the pump, it's probably would be below our historic budget. So that that option's still kind of floating out there, maybe as plan C or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the other thing was it would be good to do a you know, we're still learning with this online forum here. If there's any ideas people have with regards to how maybe we could improve the flow of it. It seems like with the lag, there's with asking questions. I started to raise my hand like I was in class just so that I could be recognized. But I think that would be good just to see if there's any ways that we can make this flow improved.
Yeah, I'd be open to any feedback. I've got your chat.
So-
I forgot about that. But, you know, so go ahead, Justin.
Hey, Jim, I lost audio there for a minute at that last vote. I apologize.
We put you down as a yes, so.
I was going to vote yes. So I think the one thing that would help me a lot, and I certainly don't need to be spoon-fed any content, but it seemed like particularly tonight, the content was kind of all over the place. I know Mark had prepared some written stuff, which I'm sure was great. I didn't get up there to get it. You know, a lot of this stuff was in 3 or 4 emails. Some of it was in board docs. It would be really great if we could have kind of a single source of truth, and I'm not complaining because I want to be spoon-fed anything, but I just think the easier it is to get to, the better we can, you know, soak it in and make decisions and the like. So I think anything we could do to kind of consolidate all those different documents would be a good thing. Maybe not in one document, but at least in one location.
Would it have been better, Justin, if they would have all been on the Google Doc tonight?
I think
you know, I'm very flexible in terms of where. I think either in board docs or on one Google Drive or whatever. I'm very flexible. I just think if there was one source of truth and we could say at the beginning of the meeting, hey, everything is here, wherever here is, I think that would have been really helpful for me. And again,
honestly, it felt disjointed to me too. Part of our problem is, I mean, the flow of the district office has been terribly disjointed. I mean, and I should have, like, for example, Aaron's information I should have had on there. That would have helped a lot. So I felt the same way, that we could do better with.
And like I said, there's always going to be pieces of it that are just in time. That's the nature of what we're going to do. But I think if we keep that in mind, it would be helpful.
Yeah, I think we need to get on board docs as much as possible because the public has access to that, or for the meetings.
Well, just so everybody knows, the information coming from DLR and McCown, Gordon, and Esky has been coming fast and furious, and they're working hard. And I know a lot of times it feels like we're making decisions daily, and then we don't always share that information out as best we can.
Well, just in time. A lot of stuff's going to be just in time. That is what it is.
Yep, I appreciate it.
Any other board comments? If not, meeting adjourned. Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
guys.
Thank you.